The Bulls have to be the most underrated and least talked about team in the East right now, and I don't see anybody saying that they have the potential to end up playing under the spotlights this summer, maybe late in the postseason. But that's what makes us outside the box. We different. Stay thinking inside the box because you're sleeping on the Bulls. The Bulls have made a trade for Vucevic last season, and I'm going, all right, they're building something. They're trying to do something. And then they have, in my opinion, the best offseason in the NBA this past year, signing Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, and then picking up DeMar DeRozan from the San Antonio Spurs. They look scary, but Dylan, you are higher than I am on them. Why is that?
Yeah, going into this season, my bold take is I got the Bulls going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they've got a really high ceiling. I think there's just a lot of offensive firepower across that entire front. From the fact that DeMar DeRozan last year, he was averaging about 21 points a game with, I believe it was his second most assists in a season for the Spurs before he came over to the Bulls. You got Lonzo Ball, who's slowly grown into that number 2 overall role. Vucevic is one of the most underrated centers in the league, in my opinion. He gets trashed on for being a bad defender, but really he's about average. But he really brings his force on the offensive end with being able to stretch the floor, post moves. He really controls the game offensively when he has the ball. And then Zach Levine is always talked about as a dunker, but he's so much more than that. He averaged 27 a game last year, and if you're just dunking, you're not getting 27 a game. He dropped 34 last night in their season opener, and the scary thing about my pick so far is they struggled last night against the Pistons, and the Pistons didn't even have Cade Cunningham, who they took number 1 overall.
There's just trash team right there. But I do like the Bulls. You think they're going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't have them there, with all due respect. I do think they're remarkably talented. You touched on Zach Levine. This is a guy who just, it's a progress I love to see. Each year, Levine gets better. He came into the league. I didn't really know much about him coming out of UCLA. Didn't like a ton of what I saw. I thought he looked like an athletic guy who was going to dunk. Could maybe stretch the floor a little bit. But each year he just gotten better. And he was one of the lone bright spots at times on the Team USA Olympic roster this summer. And he was the face of the Bulls last year. Now he has more help, and I think he's going to be a really exciting guy. Now there's going to be some pressure taken off of him. A comparison I would make of this team is the Miami Heat in the bubble. I just think it's a team that is well put together. They don't have any super flashy number 1 guy. Levine's not as good as Jimmy Butler, but I just get the same vibes as that team.
I think roster construction, you could definitely say it's the same vibes. What I say the difference between the Bulls and the Heat is I think the Heat have that more gritty personality to them. They had a Jay Crowder. They had a Jimmy Butler. I don't think Bam Adebayo is a pushover either. I'm not really sure. That's my biggest question with the Bulls right now. I'm not really sure who their enforcer is. But yeah, you touched
on...
No. But you touched on Levine. I'm a big Caruso guy now that he's in Chicago, and he gets credit for what he actually does on a basketball court, which is what he does defensively, and he talks, and he does all the little things that really doesn't show up in the box score all that much. For anybody that does fantasy basketball out there, he had 6 points or something last night in their season opener with a couple assists, 3 rebounds. So it was 30 fantasy points because he's just all over the place doing everything that most people don't see. And you touched back on Zach Levine, and you talked about him in the summer, but I'm going to go back to last season. Last season, like I said, he averaged 27.4 points per game. He was taking 19.5 shots and making 10 of them a game with a 50.7% shooting clip from the field, which is remarkable considering that a lot of them were jump shots as well. He was taking 8 threes a game and hitting them at a 42% clip while also dishing out 5 assists a game. And that's just something that you're not going to find anywhere else, really. It's a really rare attribute to have someone like that on your team, and I think Zach Levine needs to get more credit for being able to do that.
He's a terrific player. I think he's just so dynamic. That's a very generic term, but I'm a big Zach Levine guy. One thing that you said about the team when we were talking about what we're going to talk about for this show is that you think defense is they're almost a complete team, but their only hole is defense.
Yeah, like I said, with that Miami Heat team, it's a similar-ish comparison, but when I go back to that grit, and defense and grit kind of go hand in hand. I mean, Lonzo's a good defender, but outside of Lonzo, you got Caruso, like I said, who talks, he does the little things, but when you need a stop and game's on the line, I'm not sure on this roster who you send out there. Lonzo's skilled, yeah, but I don't know if Lonzo is locked down, and I think every team, if you're going to compete, I think you're going to need something like that. going through the list, I mean, this is last year's stats, and it's coming off NBA.com. But Lonzo Ball, his defensive field goal percentage was 44.6%. So 11.5 times a game on average, people took a shot against him, and they only made about 5. So 44.6, not horrible, nothing amazing. When I was going through these numbers, you find Alex Caruso, he's down there at 42.7, which is slightly better than Lonzo Ball's percentage was. But you go to DeMar DeRozan, he's up around 49%. Vucevic is over 50% at 52.6. Patrick Williams, who was a rookie last year, who I think could develop into a really good, strong defender. They took him early in the lottery last year. But the one that pops off the page to me is, I talk about people underrating Zach Levine, but I've been doing it myself, because you go and you look at his numbers, people have taken 11 shots a game against the guy, and they're only hitting him at a 42% clip. So, I mean, yeah, it's only one statistic, but 42.1% as a defender, that's pretty solid. I mean, people talk about Lonzo Ball growing into this amazing defender potentially, and he was at 44.6. And Zach Levine's down there below Lonzo, below Caruso at 42.1, and I don't think anybody talks about that enough.
I don't think the defense is as bad as you think it is. I think Caruso is a very good defender. You admitted that. Lonzo Ball is a great defender, in my opinion. Bulls were 11th in defense last year. That's a good spot to be in if with your offense.
11th out of 30 is definitely solid.
And then I think they got better adding in Caruso and adding Ball. Now, the worst team Vucevic has been on defensively in the last 3 years was at 11. That was last year. And this is including his days with the Magic. He gets claimed as a defensive liability, but I think he's better than a lot of people give him credit for. And the team looked very good defensively in preseason. Now, you can't really judge that much of preseason, but they allowed the second least points, and they had the best defensive rating out of the entire league in preseason.
Yeah, and you go back to their opening season game last night, they only put up 94, which honestly I expect more from them on the offensive end, but they only allowed 88. You look in the fourth quarter, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier or not, but the Bulls were actually trailing the Pistons for most of the first half and had to come back in the second half. And you look in the fourth quarter last night, the Pistons only scored 19 points, and it was only a 6-point win for the Bulls. So that's how you know their offense was kind of struggling. It was really inefficient. Vucevic was a 7 for 21. I don't expect that to stick. But yeah, 88 points, that's really solid. I mean, you're holding anybody under 90 in the league, in the NBA, then you're doing your job at some point. And you talk about Vucevic. Vucevic controls the paint. I think that's the best way to put it. Last night, like I said, 7 for 21 in 36 minutes, 1 for 4 from the three-point line. You kind of expect more from him out of that. But then you look at his rebounds, and he's getting 15 rebounds. I mean, you're not going to find many centers in the NBA that can go get 15 rebounds and also have the ability to get 4 assists. 4 assists doesn't sound like that much, but when you think about the NBA, it's a guard-run league. So the posts don't really have the ball in their hands that much. They don't really have as many assist opportunities outside of maybe a Bam Adebayo or a Jokic or a Karl Anthony Towns, where the offense kind of runs through them. So Vucevic, while he struggled shooting, had a really solid outing last night.
I do think this team is good. Don't think they're as good as you say they are. But I think they have the opportunity to get better because they also have Lauri Markkanen on the roster, who I think is going to get moved before the trade deadline. And that's going to... Oh, no, they gave him to Cleveland.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Well, Cleveland went big last night in their opening game. They put Lauri Markkanen at small forward.
Yeah, that's a horrible move.
It's the Cavs. They don't really have a direction at this point, and we can maybe get into that later on another topic. But, yeah, last night they started Colin Sexton, Darius Garland, which doesn't come as a shock to anybody else.
I like that duo. Colin might be on his way out, though.
Then they put Mobley at the 4 and Lauri at the 3 moving forward with Jared Allen at the 5. They were a massive lineup last night in the front court.
And you got to think they have Kevin Love off the bench, if Kevin Love even wants to be in Cleveland anymore. And they also have probably the greatest player in the NBA also going off the bench in Dean Wade. Dean Wolf, the pride of St. John, Kansas. I think that's huge. I think that could push them over the limit and be a contender.
I respectfully disagree with that statement.
Hey, we love Dean Wade here in Manhattan. Going back to the Bulls, I think their defense is going to improve, and I think they have the athleticism as well. DeMar DeRozan is no longer an above-average defender. I think he's definitely dipped under 50%, but I think he has the athleticism to hold his own and complement the other forwards on the team. The thing that I see holding this team back the most is not defense. It's not whether they can shoot the ball every night at a good rate. I think it's Billy Donovan.
Yeah. Billy Donovan, I've never been high on. I wasn't high on him with the Thunder either. I mean, you look at my example is Victor Oladipo. Victor Oladipo is this prime athletic player. He kind of showed glimpses in Orlando. The Thunder trade Serge Ibaka to the Magic. The Magic get no, not the Magic. The Thunder get Sabonis and Oladipo in return. And Oladipo just didn't do much. Like, you look at that Russell Westbrook MVP season, that's when Oladipo was there and Billy Donovan was the coach. And just across the front, that Thunder team didn't really look real solid on many aspects, and it was really a Russell Westbrook show. But then all of a sudden, some of those players get out of the Thunder and get out from under Billy Donovan's coaching, and they kind of take another step forward, and it really just makes me ask questions about him.
I don't think Billy Donovan is that good of a coach. I wasn't high on him when the Thunder signed him. I was a Scott Brooks guy. I've been a Thunder fan since I can remember. So getting Billy Donovan, I wasn't too high on the move. I think he's a guy that makes a great college coach. Obviously, he won 2 natties at Florida, but the NBA is a different ball game, and I think he's kind of been carried by the talent he's been given. When you have KD and Westbrook, good things are going to happen. And then when you have a guy like Chris Paul, who's essentially an assistant coach as well for you while he's playing, and I think that gave Billy Donovan too much credit. And then when the games came down to the wire in the playoffs, Billy Donovan was almost a liability as a coach. He didn't draw up good plays. He didn't make the right adjustments, and it hurt the teams, and that's why the Thunder never made it deep after Kevin Durant left.
Yeah, and I might go back to last night with his adjustments and whatnot. I mean, going forward, if the Bulls are going to be what the Bulls can hope to be, I would expect Lonzo Ball to be their point guard. But last night, when they were coming back on the Pistons, towards the end of the game, it was Zach Levine who was doing a majority of the playmaking. Now, I don't know who made that decision of whether it was Billy Donovan or not, but if someone's running an offense on that team, I want Lonzo Ball running the offense on that team and hoping that Levine can get a backdoor, DeRozan can get a backdoor, or Vucevic can set a pin down and pop out. Something off ball that can catch the defense off balance. But having Levine with the ball and everybody looking at him, I don't know how efficient that's going to be over the course of an 82 game season, and into the playoffs as well.
Yeah, Billy Donovan's not the guy. I saw he was like sitting in like 4th highest odds for Coach of the Year, which is to me laughable. I don't think Billy Donovan should even sniff the list.
Yeah, I don't even know if he's top 20 coaches for me. I mean, I was going through coaches earlier today, and I mean, I think there's a strong top 14, and you look at the 14th guy and you look at Billy Donovan, and as an NBA coach, it's not on the same level.
I think if there was tiers in the NBA, I think I'd give Billy Donovan a D as a coach. Maybe C tier.
We could just go with a D+.
I think that's where he's sitting. But I do think the Bulls have the talent to make up for what he does. I think the defense will get better, and I think they just have a lot of talent, and they have guys coming off the bench. You got to think Kobe White's coming off the bench now. That's huge right there. That's a really talented basketball player. They got some young guys that are going to keep getting better, and I think this is a team to have your eye on as the season progresses.
One of the sneaky guys, too, is I'm looking at the box score from last night. Why he only got 4 minutes is, again, I don't know if it's a Billy Donovan thing or not, but you talked about DeRozan with athleticism earlier. Troy Brown Jr. is an athletic dude, and I don't know why he only got 4 minutes last night, but he could be a potential piece that helps the Bulls coming off the bench, along with Elias Johnson as well.
Yeah, the Bulls just have depth, and I think that's really going to help them. You talked about Williams. They added Ayo. I think Ayo is an explosive player at Illinois. I don't know how he's going to fit in the NBA since he's gotten drafted as a 21-year-old, but
Derrick Jones Jr. as well. High flyer, used to be in Miami and Phoenix. I don't know if many of you know him by name, but if you see some of his dunks, I promise you, they've been viral. I guarantee you've seen him. You may not know who he is.
If you've watched a dunk contest in the past decade, you know.
You know who, yeah. He's got bounce.
He's going to complement DeRozan, I think, on the defensive end just by what he's able to do athletically. He's not I don't go, oh yeah, Derrick Jones Jr., that's a guy that's going to lock down the best.
Right.
But he's got length, and he's got bounce, and he's got speed.
But then you go back to Billy Donovan, and last night he has a did not play coach's decision in the box score.
Hey, we'll get there in due time. Billy Donovan, it takes him sometimes to figure things out, but we'll see where we go with the Bulls. But keep your eye on the Bulls as we move forward in the 75th anniversary of the season, 75th anniversary season of the NBA.